Hey, legal besties, and welcome to Ladies in Law. Today we have an incredible guest. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself,
Certainly, my name is Megan Burns.
can you tell us a little bit about your journey, who you are, what your background is, all the fun, fast facts about you?
Sure. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I grew up not in a family of lawyers at all. My family were farmers, auto workers, nurses, teachers, other hardworking folks. For whatever reason, I always wanted to be a lawyer. I actually cannot remember a time in my life where that wasn't my long-term career goal. And I would say second grade, I had that idea in my head. I had no idea because there was no reference point to be a lawyer in my family. Um, in any case, I went to college on a soccer scholarship, played soccer at Boston College for 4 years, took a couple of years off and worked in management consulting, applied to law school. I've dedicated my career to helping real people with real problems. And that started with being a public defender for many years, trying lots of cases, representing all kinds of people that were from marginalized communities typically. And then I decided to make the transition into private practice. And I'd always really been interested in plaintiff personal injury work. And that's what I focus on now.
That's incredible. That's so much life, too. I want to just pick apart every aspect of that. like, because I feel okay, so I will brag for you. You are a badass, amazing trial lawyer and also female law firm owner, which is incredible. And I think I saw you had 2 out of the top 50 verdicts in California in 2024, which is just like insane.
That's what they tell me.
I want to pick your brain because I feel like I have so much to learn from you, and I think that just like female attorneys in general have so much that we could learn from you and your example of the things that you are doing. Um, and so, kind of to go along that, I want to first ask you because I know that I actually interned as a with the public defender's office in law school, and that's what I thought I wanted to do. I lived in Kentucky, went to law school in Kentucky. I worked with the public defender's office all 3 years, and then I thought I was going to work with the Kentucky Innocence Project, and then I came back to California, and now I'm doing personal injury. And so it's kind of like a I want to ask you, like, I also knew that I wanted to be an attorney since the time I was little, but I had no family in the law at all. I had like no direct correlation, except my family did tell me I'd make a good lawyer because I argued a lot. But I want to kind of ask you, like, did you know what kind of attorney you wanted to be, or did you know you just really wanted to help people? Like, what was your kind of path to getting there?
I'm vibing with everything you're saying. And I don't know if that is a synergy we have, just being really good at arguing. I do think that helping people was always very central to what I wanted to do in my life. When I went to Boston College, my undergrad was in finance. And so, even though I knew I really wanted to be a lawyer, I also thought I need some life experience before I just jump into law school. And so I wanted to go out into the working world. And I worked for, one consulting firm that did intellectual property consulting. I was in their strategic division. They also did a lot of legal expert witness work. That I was more helping companies strategically license or otherwise their intellectual property. So that was obviously very interesting. And then I worked for a management consulting firm that was really focusing on like startups and startup culture, and did that for another year. But I will say that I did not find that work ultimately personally fulfilling. Um, I remember being a consultant and wearing sparkly socks because I was like, I need to be different. This is not who I am. This is not my
Mm-hmm.
world. And as intellectually challenging as some of this work might be, at the end of the day, I don't see how this contributes to the greater good. And so it's not meaningful to me. And so when I went to law school, I knew that that was going to be my focus. I don't know that criminal defense necessarily was something that came into my mind. I also interned at the San Francisco Public Defender's Office in law school, and was there doing that internship that I'm like, oh shit, this is for me. This is my jam. This is what it's really about. And I was always interested in human rights work, and I realized, oh, I don't need to go do international human rights. The criminal justice system is one of the greatest human rights issues of our time, and I want to be part of that movement. And so, I went into being a public defender for all the right reasons, I guess, a real warrior for that work. Um, at the time, and I like to think it's still this way, but at the San Francisco Public Defender's Office, it was considered the training ground for great trial lawyers. And it was very, very hard to get a job there, and so I was very happy that I was able to get that position. And my whole philosophy of being a public defender was, if you paid me $1 million for this case, what would you expect in terms of the quality of the legal representation? And if I'm doing anything less than that for you as an indigent individual in the criminal justice system, then I'm not doing my job. That obviously requires a huge amount of time and commitment and focus to each and every individual case. It's certainly never going to be a 9 to 5 to be a public defender if you're doing it the right way. And it was very, very meaningful. To your point about, you have a lot to learn from me, and, I'm happy to give you whatever tips I can, and certainly to your listeners. The reality is that I'm who I am today because I had a lot of great mentors myself. And particularly at the public defender's office, seeing these many times women, frankly, mostly women, were the heavy hitters, in my opinion, going and watching their trials, going and brainstorming cases with these folks that weren't in it for the fame or the glory, but were in it to really help people. I learned so much from other women that I consider titans of trial work. Um, so, if I can do anything else, it's pass that along, because there can be a lot more people like me out there, and I'd love to see that. So anything I can do to support younger lawyers, in particular women lawyers wanting to do trial work, I'm here for it. How can I help?
That's incredible. I feel like the world needs more of that mentality, because I think, we are in a heavily male dominated field. And so I think when we can have these kinds of conversations and also be examples of like, no, you can do it all, and let me show you how I'm doing it, I think that kind of visibility is so important, because I think sometimes we want to have those touchstones of just like relatability of like, okay, could I do that too though? Like, do I have that in me? But what does that even look like? Especially if you don't have an example of it, or if you haven't had a mentor in your life that is that shining example, or it kind of just takes you along the journey with them, or shows you and tells you what has worked and what hasn't worked, and also kind of teaches you that you can, adapt into some of these. They might work for you, but also you're your own person, and it's important that you find what works for you too, because you also want to be authentic to like what is going to work for you, because just because it works for someone else might not work for you. So it's being able to have that kind of like open discourse around that. And so there are so many different types of attorneys we can be. And so I wanted to ask you if you always knew you wanted to be a trial attorney, or if it was something that you fell in love with.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right that being a trial lawyer can mean, or being a lawyer in general, can mean so many different things. You could never go to court. You could always be in court. You could do, write contracts. You could really be more of a business person than anything else. You can really, I think the beauty of being a lawyer is that you really can make it into anything you want it to be, which is also amazing, because I was cognizant of, once I got my bar license, is that I never had to work for anybody else again if I didn't want to. that I could immediately go make a living for myself. I mean, this is especially in this AI age where so many jobs are being eliminated. It's jobs with licenses where, the person has spent a lot of time to get that license. These jobs are not going to go away. And there is a way to always make a path for yourself in the law. And it can be a lot of different things. So I agree with you. And being a trial lawyer is not the easiest path. Let's be honest about that. The work is really, really hard. It's very, very intense. And not everybody is meant to do this kind of work, but for the people that are, um, I find it incredibly rewarding personally. Part of the reason I think that I'm a good trial lawyer is that I'm an athlete. I was
Mm.
an athlete. I'm a lot older now, but when you are doing sports at a really high level, there's a lot of pressure. You get told by coaches all the time, you're not fast enough, you're not strong enough, you're not good enough. Do it again, and then do it again, over and over and over. And I think that being a trial lawyer is a lot like sports. And I've heard that analogy before. I know of one particular district attorney's office in the Bay Area that always wanted to hire college athletes as DAs because they ended up being really good trial lawyers. And so I think of trial work a lot the same, and maybe that's just my point of view, but it's reps. That's what it's all about. It's getting up and standing up and doing it again and again and losing, just like you would in a game, and not letting it get you down and having that self-confidence to feel like, no, I'm walking in this room and I own this room. There is a huge amount of ego that goes into being a trial lawyer. If you can go into that space, and you don't have to be a tall, white, handsome male to own the space. You can own the space in whatever way works for you, but you have to go into that room knowing you're the smartest, you're the best, and the whole orbit of that courtroom is going to be surrounded by you. And those are the people that can really excel in this work. There are a lot of personal sacrifices that you make to be a trial lawyer. And, there's some aspect of balance that has to exist. I personally have no chill. Anybody who knows me will tell you that. I absolutely have no chill. I probably am a little bit on the scale of OCD. I don't know. I work really, really hard and I work a lot of hours, but I do it because the work is so rewarding. And I still obviously try to make time for my family while I'm doing it. So I think if you are one of those people that either, whether it's dance, maybe you did competitive dance or you did some sort of sport, or you're used to having pressure on you, um, and you like to get up and perform, you're probably going to be a great trial lawyer.
It's so funny because I literally, when you were talking about playing soccer, I was like, I had a mental note of like, okay, ask her how that relates to being a trial attorney because I could not agree more with just like that sports mindset and the reps. Like, I think that is, I don't know, I like to frame things like that too. Um, and I think too, a big part of like the confidence walking in the room, your mindset can dictate so much, where it's like if you have this mindset of like, well, what could go wrong? It's like, no, but what if everything goes right? This is what this is going to look like, and that's how I'm going to operate. Have you always kind of excelled in having that mindset, or is that something that you feel like you had to work towards obtaining?
It's funny you say that because I was having a conversation with my mother the other day on the phone. And I was like, Mom, I think I have a pathological level of self confidence. I'm like, yes, you helped really nurture that, but I think part of that is just nature. Sometimes you're just born, and I'm not trying to be braggadocious because this work is not about me. This work is about the clients 100%. And I'm a true believer, whether it's representing an indigent person or somebody in the criminal justice system or doing plaintiff personal injury work, which I actually find equally meaningful. And I think there's a lot of synergies between those two areas of law. And we can talk more about that. But yeah, I I do think you have to have self confidence, whether it's something you just have or it's something you grow into. But a lot of uh, women generally, but women lawyers think that people ahead of them are better and smarter than them, and usually they're not. Usually it's you really know the facts of your case better than anybody else, especially for all the folks out there that are associates working with partners. The partner may not have gone and looked at all the details the same way that you have. So it's always trial work. I also like to say it's the devil in the details.
Mm.
You have to, you go 5,000 feet up and you look at every piece of evidence, and then you come down to the like deep minutia of the case. And that's when magic happens. And so it's a combination of having those like trial skills that we talk about, the public speaking skills, the ability to know how to do a good cross examination, but it's also just knowing your case.
Yeah.
And that in combination with having some self confidence, which does have to come from you in some way, shape, or form, but just know that um, people really aren't smarter than you, people aren't better than you. Um, if you want to be a trial lawyer, you can make it happen.
Yeah. No, I think that's so important. And I think hearing you speak about you is really refreshing because I think, like, as a woman, we are always taught so often to just be more palatable, be more this, be more that. This will be received better if you use this, or if you're too kind, it'll be taken this way, or if you're too confident, it'll look like you are just cocky. All these things that just being yourself is like the best form of resistance, you know?
Yeah, I do think I mean, there are some amazing trial lawyers that, like I said, that are two or three generations before me, had it way harder than I do, or that you and your
For
age
sure.
group will have in the
Mhm.
future. But even to this day, there's certain things that I do very specific that I know are related to me being a woman in the courtroom, because I
Mhm.
do want people not to feel intimidated by me. So, one thing I almost never show in a courtroom is anger. Um, and I've had experiences with very obnoxious male attorneys many, 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 many times. Um, I remember one particular trial that was a very high stakes um, homicide case, and the prosecutor was incredibly well known, but he was also known to be just a misogynist dick, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And he was very upset about some of the rulings and was just acting absolutely insane. Some of it was in front of the jury, but a lot of times it was when the jury wasn't around. And I just took my Michelle Obama advice: when they go low, you go high. And I think when people do that, I go ice cold. And um, you as a woman, if I get mad or I match that energy, it's going to be received so much differently. And so
Mhm.
I very consciously actually went down in tone, I went down in energy. I was very level. No matter what he did, I would not let him set me off. And after the trial, the judge very kindly, once there wasn't a conflict with him talking to me freely about the experience of that particular trial, brought me back into chambers, and he said, nobody could have done that trial but you. Like, the way
Wow.
that you comported yourself with what you were experiencing from that particular district attorney, you just handled yourself so amazingly. So I think that there are things that women have to do differently in the courtroom. You don't have the luxury of acting like an asshole.
Yeah.
You have to be professional to the 1000th degree at all times. And the jury can't see you otherwise. Only in that moment where the jury gives you permission to go after that witness in maybe a more aggressive way, then you turn it up, you take your cues from them. But
Mm.
you really have to have a good demeanor in the courtroom, which means calm demeanor, calm confidence, I guess I would like to say. I
Yeah.
also, like, there's little things. I do think a lot about what I wear into court. I mean, number one, I never want to wear anything too flashy. Never want to wear anything too drab. Um, I I kind of think of it almost like as a uniform, like a sports uniform.
Yeah.
Again, back to, having been a competitive soccer player for so many years, I think of it like I'm putting on my uniform. And so I have a certain way that I dress. And, you know, kind of the contrast to the trial with the very, bombastic male district attorney had a very contentious trial with a well dressed female district attorney. And,
Mm-hmm.
this was very high stakes. This was a case where my client was facing, hundreds of years to life in prison. I mean, this was not a frivolous trial that we were doing. And, a lot of times in criminal court, less so I find with my civil trials, um, the jurors are open to sticking around and talking to you. I always make a point about talking about what could I have done differently, and really in a very earnest way.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned so many things. I never bring a clicky pen into the courtroom because I obsessively click a pen that I'm unaware of. And a juror told me I remember when I was in the San Francisco Public Defender's Office, I had, I don't know if it was like 7 or 8 trials back to back where I was literally picking a jury in one case while my jury from my last trial was deliberating, like one right
Wow.
after another. I think I lost 2 or 3 sizes in that year.
It's a lot.
Somebody said, "Why like her hair back? I don't like her hair down." And part of it was I was getting no sleep. My hair was getting bigger and bigger. I was probably getting more and more disheveled as every day went forward. But, so they give you comments like that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, this one trial with this very well dressed district attorney that was very serious. All the jurors wanted to talk about was our shoes. Like, why, we would talk about what shoes you would each wear each day. They would never do that with a male attorney. And that
No.
was less than 5 years ago.
I wish that was surprising to hear.
Yeah, well, them's the breaks. This is the world we live in. And,
Yeah.
I just think women lawyers need to own this space. So, I also, I am a gay woman, so that's different, I guess. And I wear sometimes things that aren't super feminine. And I've also had jurors say, "Hey, I really like those really cool Oxfords that you wore to the trial or whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, I love it." Bringing a little different sort of flavor into the outfits. But yeah, so jurors always care what you wear. They care. It's a popularity contest. Is at the end of the day, they're like, do they like you? Do they like the other side? Are you nicer to them? Are you funny? Do you dress better? Like, this stuff really matters. You think it matters all the wonderful words you're going to say in your opening statement. Sometimes it's just that presentation of the whole aura of who you are that makes the jury kind of go with you if they like you.
Yeah. No. Yes. And I think too, like I want to talk about the way that you are also a mother and a trial attorney. Because I think so often as women, we write ourselves off of different opportunities and don't think that we're able to, excel in all areas. But you are excelling at what you are doing. And so you are this example of like, you can do it all. And I know that it might look different for all of us, but I want to kind of talk to you about what being a mother and being a trial attorney has looked like for you. Or if that was a decision that wasn't even an easy one at all to make, or if, just what your journey with it has been like.
Yeah, no, I get it. So this question would probably be better answered by my wife and my 14-year-old. I mean, part of it is having a
Bring them in.
partner that is very supportive of your career. And I am lucky enough to have that. My wife and I have been together for many, many years. And she's a lawyer but doesn't practice. She's actually in the wine industry. So I think having her understand what I do and be supportive of it, but also holding me accountable to be there for family matters is important. To say, "Hey, it's your turn to do the dishes."
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to deal with bath time tonight, and just really trying to be present. Um, it's not easy. Let's, like you say, I can do it all, and I can understand that externally, you know, looking in, that that would be your perspective. But, you know, let's be honest. It's hard to be a mom. It's hard to be a mom that's a lawyer. And it's certainly hard to be a mom that's a lawyer that's also doing trial work. It's not easy, and there are sacrifices that are made in both areas. You know, I am lucky enough to have another badass trial lawyer as my law partner, Emily Dom, and she has this great saying about being a mom and a lawyer, which is that, you know, if you're the best mom you can possibly be, you're going to be a pretty shitty lawyer. And if you are the best lawyer you possibly can be, you're going to be a pretty shitty mom. So you have to find a way to understand you're not going to be perfect at anything. And once you embrace that, it is all possible. But you know, you got to be organized. You got to make things. You got to set your priorities in the right way. Um, you know, just as an example, of course, you know, when 5 o'clock dings, it's not like my work as a lawyer is done by any means. You know, my staff kind of goes back and forth of, do they like it when I send emails at 8 a.m.? And then they get 20 emails from me, all with different things that need to be followed up on, or do they like the like 10 p.m. emails that they get from me because they know what's coming the next day? So I'm still trying to like work out what works best for them, but you know, I try to come home from work at a reasonable time, and I try to be present. You know, I'm present for meals, I'm present for, you know, bedtime routines. And then once everything kind of settles down, I need to get back and get some work done. And so that works for me. It's maybe not like I get back to the fact that I have no chill. So that's not necessarily going to work for everybody because it means you're always on, but it works for me. And I feel better knowing that like I'm not ahead of the things I need to do the next day. So you know, it's not anything anybody's ever going to be perfect about, and it's okay not to be perfect. And I think people need to hear that more.
Agree. Completely agree. And I think talking about the struggle of it, or like externally it might look like I have it all, but also like it takes a lot of like community around me, and having a partner that intrinsically understands and supports and also holds you accountable, um I think is important too. And even just like your rhetoric of like the way that you talk with your staff about like, okay, which one are we liking more, like that's a great leadership too, of just trying to ebb and flow through what each season might look like and what might be received well, um or the best, and also knowing it's a learning process because not every season is going to look the same or be as busy as the one before, or the busy might look very different this season than last busy season. So being able to adapt and go through that is important too.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we have my law firm's Mirador Law, and we're based here in the Bay Area, and we have an incredible team, honestly. And again, it's that having a great team environment at home. God, I really am taking a lot of my experience of being a soccer player
Yeah.
into my work life. But you know, we have a great working team. We have incredible lawyers. We have incredible staff. And as you know, one of the two managing partners of this practice, making the other lawyers in this office feel seen and heard. Would also, this is not intentional, and it's not to say I would never hire a man as a lawyer, because I certainly would, but every lawyer that works for me is a woman, and that just happens to be the case. I,
Yeah.
but if a dude wants to come work for Mirador Law, like send me your resume and we will definitely talk. But right now we're a law firm all of women attorneys, and so every day, I mean, I like to think that I'm mentoring the lawyers that work for me and with me, and helping them be the best versions of themselves, making sure that they have what they need to do that. So, um, yeah, that's
It's
important too.
important. Yeah, it really is. And I kind of want you to dive in a little bit about that too. So you are a woman who owns her own law firm, and you're running a business. And I think that that's so important to kind of hear about. I know you have like business management, financial literacy background, and so kind of to hear how the two have worked together, and also just like what it will take to create more space for women in leadership roles.
Sounds good. You are now hitting on my second most favorite topic. The first one was
Yay!
women trial lawyers, my most favorite topic to talk about, and the second one is women entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And there's so many opportunities in the law for women to be entrepreneurs. Emily and I like to joke that we're unemployable because we could not take direction from anyone else this time. That sounds just like, like stab me in the eye a million times to actually have somebody else tell me what to do on a daily basis. So there is that. I don't like people telling me what to do. So good thing I work for myself and have my own law firm. But honestly, having your own business is another way to level up financially for women in the law. And I think this is really, really important. Ultimately, our profession is a way for us to support ourselves financially, either have a good quality of life while we're practicing, and then also set forth, if you are interested in creating generational wealth for your children or your grandchildren, having that kind of set forth. And then as well as, when you stop working, having a good quality of life at that time of your life. So, ultimately we're here to make money and earn a living. And what a great way to do that, to earn a living, but also really help people while you do that. I mean, that's what's so beautiful about this work. Um, but a big part of that is being an entrepreneur. If you try to kind of level up financially in a male dominated profession, and with love and respect to all my wonderful male trial lawyers who I know have also mentored me and are also mentoring the women that work for them, ultimately they're not going to, nobody, whether it's a man or a woman or whatever, is going to make space for you financially unless you make it for yourself. Either you're, getting to a place where you are also, and not just partner in the name, but with equity in the
Mm.
firm and with profit sharing in the firm, in a firm that you're already at or joining, or you start your own thing. That's where the financial independence really comes for women lawyers. And I really believe in that. So, you know, I know so many talented female attorneys, and you do have to be a little bit brave. And I think ultimately you have to bet on yourself. And whether or not you want to be a trial lawyer and a lawyer that's also an entrepreneur, those two things don't have to be the same. There's a lot of women, at least here in the Bay Area, that I know that run very successful law practices in all different areas. Um, and it's important. That's very important to me and very important to support other people in that journey.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that kind of financial autonomy is so powerful, and I think more attainable than we allow ourselves to think it is. For fear or for what we hear rhetoric around us, or not knowing, the steps to get there.
Yeah, so if you are a lawyer that's listening and you want to go out and you're like, how do I start my own practice? What things would I do? I don't even know where to start. Um, I have a couple, I think, concrete suggestions. Um,
Yay!
yeah, like kind of like how, yes, I went to school and I have a degree in finance before I went to law school. Just like law school doesn't teach you to be a lawyer ultimately, neither did an undergrad degree in business teach me how to run a law firm. Let's be frank. So you got to go out and learn some stuff. And there are some great resources. There are some amazing podcasts that are really focused on, the entrepreneurial aspects of running a law firm. And I listen to a lot of them. Um, I will also give props to my folks at Lawyerist, and they have an audiobook, but then also I think a print book called The Small Firm Roadmap. And honestly, it was when I first joined this practice, I didn't own the practice. To be clear, I came out of the public defender's office, joined a law firm with two wonderful male attorneys that were highly regarded and were kind of nearing retirement, and they were looking to bring in a partner that eventually wanted to take over the practice. So it was very intentional on my part that I was joining a law firm that I had every intention to run one day, but I wasn't when I started out. So, I remember early on just learning stuff like, well, how do you do marketing? Well, we've just done it the same way for the last 30 years. And I'm like, it's probably a better way to do that. Let's figure that out. And then, well, how do you do your bookkeeping? Well, we just write paper checks, and we've been doing that the same way for 30 years. I think there's a better way to do that. And so slowly, every quarter, I just kind of had a quarter goal. I said, okay, well, I'm going to fix this aspect of how we run our practice. And so, I read the small firm roadmap, listened to podcasts, and then the other aspect of like, how do you learn how to do this is having that team outside of your family and a team outside of your office, which means your legal network, other women, other entrepreneurs that are doing this that you lean on and you say, okay, how can I do this thing? Like, what is best practices for SEO these days? How are you setting up your retirement plan for your law firm? Whatever it is, like anything that you need to do to run a law practice, somebody else has already done. And if you look at people that you know and say, this person is clearly doing a good job running a law practice, take them to lunch and go ask them, what software are you using? How do you have people that are independent contractors that do your bookkeeping, or do you have an in-house person that does that for you? These kind of things. It's just really getting out and asking people. I do that with trials all the time. I'm constantly calling other trial lawyers and saying, I've got this really interesting issue. How would you handle this? And I do the same thing for business. One really neat thing that we have here in the Bay Area is the Bay Area Women Lawyers Network. So we call it Ballin.
I love that.
Yeah. And so it is a network of women lawyers from a lot of different professional organizations like the San Francisco Trial Lawyers Association, the Alameda County Bar Association, the Alameda Contra Costa Trial Lawyers Association. The list goes on and on. So all the kind of team of professional bar associations in the Bay Area put on this Ballin retreat every year up in Napa. Just everybody, it's happening in February at the Silverado. You can Google it. Our firm is sponsoring the event, and we're going to have a dinner on Saturday night to talk about financial literacy, because this
Wow.
is so important. So there, I really, and Emily, my law partner, would say the same thing. It's one of the best kind of networking events we go to every year, both for the way that we're able to connect with other women lawyers in our area, but also kind of talking about topics you're not going to talk about in any other space. And that includes financial literacy that comes with running a law practice.
Absolutely. I think that level of like intentional networking too is so important, or having just like a brain trust around you of people that you can pick their brain and respect where they're coming from and know that it's a safe space to just like ask the questions. Because what's the worst that happens? You're told no, or like I don't know, and then you're in the same position. Like having that kind of mentality is important too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, back to what I said about going into a courtroom to be part of a trial, it's like nobody in there is smarter than you. Nobody's in there is better than you, except maybe the court clerk and the bailiff and the court reporter that listens to trials all the time. They're probably could flip a switch and become pretty great trial lawyers themselves. Um, but yeah, I mean, just the same thing about running a business. Nobody's smarter or better than you. And I think women in general, a lot of women, um, are intimidated by financial issues. And
Hmm.
it can hold us back, particularly women lawyers that have an entrepreneurial zeal, but then the fear of what it's going to take to get there, it holds us back. And so, whether you want to go out and start your own practice, you can call me. I will drop my contact information in the notes with Michaela, and people are happy to reach out to me, and I'm happy to answer, confidentially questions that have to do with the business of law. But again, law school doesn't teach you this stuff. There's no business of law class in most law schools. And so we do have to like find our network of people and resources to help learn it.
Yeah. And thank you, seriously, for the work that you do and the time that you spend helping mentor and being a resource for people. I think that it's really important, and it takes time and emotional energy and it just takes time and effort, and just thank you for taking it and doing that.
Well, thank you for saying that, but I get as much out of helping other women lawyers as hopefully I like to think they get out of any mentorship that I give. You know, still to this day, I run into people that were my interns when I was at the public defender's office. Some are judges, some are very successful attorneys in their own right, and you know, talking to them about their experiences working with me when they were law students and what they're doing now. Um, it's very gratifying to have people that have been your interns many years ago call you up out of the blue and say, "Hey, Megan, you know, I remember you were so good at this thing. How can you help me with this issue I have?" And I'm always there for them. I think that making your mark on the world, certainly, it is about helping my clients. Like, you know, I always like to say, even if you were president of the United States, um, enough time passes and people do forget your name, right?
Mm.
Like, could you name every president of the United States as you sit here? No, there's so many people that are not this. I have no idea. Maybe there's some history buffs that are better and could rattle off the list, but I certainly can't. So, what does it mean to kind of be in this world? It means helping people. It means doing something that's positive for another human being. And if you do that, like that's my philosophy on life. And that's how I practice law. And that's why I value mentoring.
Yeah. That's amazing. I wish I could like pick your brain for like many more hours, but I have one last question for you. And it kind of goes with like what we have been talking about. And I mean, you have so many nuggets of wisdom, but if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, or younger women like you, what would that piece of advice be?
I would say, um, if I was to give one piece of advice, is to make that leap to do your own thing earlier than you think you're ready to do it. There's never a perfect time to leave that safe job and go out and either start your own law practice or go into a different direction. Um, do it sooner than what you think. If you're like, oh, I have a 5-year plan and I'm going to accomplish X, Y, and Z, and then I'm going to do the thing that I really want. Why is that 5 years so important? If there's anything that I've learned, it's that I kind of wish I would have done this 5 years earlier, because I would just be that much further, forward than I already am. And just having that courage to bet on yourself. That would be my biggest piece of advice for everybody listening.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here today, and for as much as you shared, and for also being a resource moving forward for the people listening. I think it's important, and I really appreciate you showing up in this space a lot. So thank you.
No worries, Michaela. Thanks for having me. Fly up here to Oakland. We'll go have a
Yes.
nice glass of Pinot and we'll talk
Oh.
about all your careers and all your dreams and how I can help.
Okay, booking my flight now. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Megan. I really appreciate you. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Until next time.